It's gonna fall. Yeah, it's gonna.
So, Mom, how old were you in the 80s?
Let me see. 1981. I was almost 18 years old. Graduated high school.
Okay. What is one memorable moment about the 80s? A special moment.
Well, there's a lot of memorable special moments. I can't just pick out one because there's like many.
Well, a few.
I mean, a lot of events in my life happened in the 80s. I got married in 81. I started a job that was a 15 career in 1981. My life kind of took off, like in the 80s. That's when you kind of grow up and find yourself, do your own thing.
Okay. What were some popular movies that you remember of?
Oh, gee, there's lots of movies I remember. Purple Rain, of course. When Doves Cry.
Isn't that? I'm talking about songs.
Purple Rain is a movie.
Purple Rain is a movie?
Yes, it is. Prince.
I don't know what that is.
Prince was in that. Yeah, When Doves Cry. That was in the movie. Yes, that's.
Okay. I thought
your
that
mom
was a song.
Purple Rain is a song, but it was also a movie.
Okay.
It's also a movie.
What's another movie?
Another movie would be Pretty Woman. That was a movie in the late 80s. And then, the 80s is when all the horror movies started, like Friday the 13th. I watched that, the first one that came out, Friday the 13th. The Jason movies, the Freddy Krueger movies, all that started in the 80s. Yeah.
What about the fashion in the 80s?
Fashion,
what
big
did teens
hair.
wear?
Teens.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of dressed like Madonna. They wore the big hair and the gloves, and you had like Michael Jackson. He always wore a glove. They wore, like I said, I can't really describe what they wore. Really, you need to go online and look, because there was like a variety of clothing. Like in the 80s, like they had like the shoulders, padded shoulders. Was in, and kind of like they went down to the what you guys call skinny jeans today. And then a lot of the teens, I can't really tell, they wear the socks, the crazy looking socks, and the tennis shoes, and the belts and that kind of thing, suspenders. And the 80s had a lot of good years.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to say about the 80s?
Wow, I could go on and on about the 80s. I wish I could
The
go back.
president. Who's the president?
Bill Clinton was president in the 80s, yeah. And about, the later 80s, president. Bill Clinton was president, and there's a lot of stuff that went on there with, a lot of political stuff. Oh, and main thing, MTV came out in the 80s, people. MTV. You would not be watching MTV if it wasn't for the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, and then let me see. Wait, let me see. I have so many moments. Let me see here. Well, let me think. Lots of moments in the 80s. Some of
Taylor Swift was born in the 80s.
Oh, Taylor Swift was born in the 80s. Maybe some moments I can't really put here. Oh, the 80s, you really, when you graduate high school, what you're fixing to find out, and, you get your job, and you start your little career, whatever, and it's like, it's like your life changes, and you're kind of like well-grounded, and you kind of know which direction you might be going. Not all people do. Sometimes that happens later. But that's usually the road, the path where you know what you're going to do in life. And it takes maybe, a little more time for others. But, it's kind of like I remember that, and that's going to happen to you soon. That's why I was just thinking, because in the early 80s, that happened to me. Of course, I got married right off, and you won't be doing that. But, so there's a lot of life events, in the 80s that really had a lot of changes in there that you have to adapt to, I learned what it was to be responsible, to pay bills, all that good stuff, teens.
Thank you.
I'm not done yet.
Thank you.